A few months ago, I released a video about potential engines that could see play in Dark Magician going forward. One of those engines that we discussed in that video was the Fiendsmith engine. In this video, I'll be going over the deck list that I've been using and refining to up until this point, and it has seen a decent amount of success at a locals level. I haven't taken it to any major tournaments, however, at the locals level, it did see some variations of success, and I do want to share it with you today. A quick disclaimer before going into the deck profile, I do want to emphasize that this isn't my favorite way to play Dark Magician. I'm a fan of engines that see a lot of synergy and work in tandem with the Dark Magician cards. This engine and this deck profile is very much a case of this or that, and although I'm not fond of that style of deck building, it does work in this case, and I'll explain how that is throughout the video. Like every other Dark Magician deck profile on my channel, we start off with the worst card in the deck, which is our level 7 vanilla. We play one copy of Dark Magician and one copy of Dark Magician Girl. Now these two cards, although are the worst cards in the deck, they are the most important. If you do wish to play just two copies of Dark Magician, that's absolutely fine. But what DMG offers in this particular list is a way to play through some really awkward hands if you don't open optimally. In addition to this, getting a draw 2 off Soul Servant is just so important in this list, because not only does the deck have very good recursion, but having an ability to just draw 2 throughout the game is just really important. And it helps you essentially keep up with a lot of these better decks within the format. Moving on, we do play our 3 copies of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos is the facilitator within this list, pretty much grants us access to every Dark Magician card in our list. So in addition to the Illusion of Chaos, we play our 3 copies of Magician Souls. Magician Souls, like in every other DM list, is the most important card in the deck. Illusion of Chaos, grabbing your copy of Magician Souls, is always the starting play throughout most of the combos. If you see Magician Souls in your hand, you feel very good and you feel like you're in a pretty decent position going forward. We finish off the primary normal summon and special summons of this list with our 2 copies of Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod normally is a one-of, in my opinion, within the current way to play Dark Magician. However, having a normal summon is very important in this list. So seeing a normal summon, we do play 2 other normal summons within this deck. So seeing a normal summon is very important in combination with your Illusion of Chaos and Magician Souls. That gets you access into your Fiendsmith combo, and I'll explain how that is later on in the deck profile. We do follow up the Dark Magician monster count with your 1 copy of Apprentice Illusion Magician. Although not the best card, it is utilized as an extender in addition to Timaeus the United Dragon. Timaeus is the only in-archetype way to get into Red Eye Dark Dragoon, which is your boss monster. And although Timaeus isn't a fantastic card, it is our only in-archetype way to get the Dragoon, like I said, and therefore it's a must play. In addition, Timaeus can be used as an extender if you do need. Say you open up with Timaeus DM or DMG along with Soul Servant. Timaeus pitching your DM to simply be utilized as an extender is relatively decent, and then you use your Soul Servant, and your Soul Servant is live. So in that case, Timaeus is okay. Apprentice is also fantastic because Apprentice requires a discard, and one of the Fiendsmith cards loves to be discarded and can be discarded, and allows you to generate some value off it. So Apprentice does have some synergy in that regard as well. Then we follow it up with the 2 copies of Soul Servant. Soul Servant is fantastic when it does resolve, and it does resolve to its maximum by getting your draw 2 off Dark Magician, Dark Magician Girl. Our final Dark Magician spell is the 1 copy of Secrets of Dark Magic. Secrets has really grown on me throughout the years. I think it's one of the better support cards that we've gotten. Although it is a searchable polymerization at heart, I have seen some situations where I've been ritual summoning Illusion of Chaos because of the way this deck generates bodies. You don't really need to go into Dragoon, because sometimes just Illusion of Chaos, a negate like that, alongside of what the rest of your deck can facilitate, is enough. In addition, there are other cards that we do play some other dragons, which Secrets paired with with Dark Magician and any dragon gets you into your strongest boss monster. So that's it for the Dark Magician cards. Now we will move on to the other part of the deck. This part of the deck profile is the most controversial, and it's simply due to the fact that Bestials are seeing a significant rise in the format. They are in every single list right now because of how strong Fiendsmith is. The engine in question that we are going to be talking about is the Toy Box engine. We play 3 copies of Toy Box, 1 copy of Toy Tank, and 1 copy of Toy Soldier. Now, why are Bestials such a problem for this particular engine? And that is, with a heavy Bestial count in everyone's deck, the odds of your Toy Tank and Toy Soldier resolving are very, very small, and it pretty much shuts down this engine completely. However, to that argument, I feel like what these cards generate warrants the risk of them being hit with Bestials. For example, you are sending your Toy Tank and Toy Soldier off Magician's Souls almost every single time, and even if your opponent does end up wasting a Bestial on Toy Soldier, Toy Tank, I think that's a pretty decent trade-off considering you get 2 free cards in addition to them wasting an important resource. Remember, if your opponent does Bestial your Toy Soldier, Toy Tank, although you don't get the search, you still get the resources that you get from Magician's Soul sending these cards. In addition to this, it pretty much allows you to play relatively more free, knowing that a resource like a Bestial is no longer in your opponent's hand. And more importantly, if your opponent does not Bestial these cards, Toy Soldier being able to just turn on your entire Fiendsmith engine by itself by searching you your Lacrima is just way too good to pass up on. So essentially, the way this engine synergizes with Magician's Souls, if you open up Magician's Souls and Toy Box, that is also full Fiendsmith combo. And if your opponent does have a Bestial, for example, your Magician's Souls sends both Toy Tank and Toy Soldier. If, for example, your opponent interrupts with your Toy Soldier being the most important one, the fact that you still have Toy Tank and Magician's Souls on the board, allowing to get into your Fiendsmith combo is very, very important. Like I said, and if this does end up resolving, getting your Lacrima online and pretty much starting your entire combo is just so broken. Magician's Souls and Toy Box uninterrupted, it gets you on unbelievable boards, and that's kind of where you want to go within this list. Yes, Bestials do kill this engine completely in some capacity. However, I feel like that's just a risk you have to take. Remember, we aren't playing a good deck, so Bestials at any point in our list is relatively detrimental. And just getting the resources you get off Magician's Souls and, for example, Toy Box, just to draw 2 by themselves, warrant playing into Bestials a little bit more frequently. And like I said, if they don't have Bestials, you kind of just win on the spot with Souls and Toy Box by themselves. So that's why I do like to play the Toy Box variant. And in addition to Lacrima, we do play the rest of the Fiendsmith cards. So we have the 1 Lacrima, and then we have the 3 copies of Fiendsmith Engraver, and the 1 copy of Fiendsmith Lurie. These are the monster count that you need. The Fiendsmith engine is relatively small, so it is very flexible in a lot of lists, and the advantage these cards just generate you is so free. It's incredibly strong. In addition to this, we do play our 3 copies of Fiendsmith Track and the 1 trap card, Fiendsmith in Paradise. So this is kind of just the Fiendsmith engine. Fiendsmith in Paradise allows you to have a lot on the follow-up and setting up your opponent's turn. In addition, it's an amazing send-off Magician's Souls because it's online a lot of the time in Grave. In addition to this, Apprentice Illusion Magician also being able to send your Lurie or Fiendsmith in Paradise to generate you some advantage like that offers a lot of value for your Dark Magician engine. For example, seeing Illusion of Chaos, Secrets, and Apprentice Illusion Magician with, say, one of these 2. Or instead of Secrets, you see Magician's Rod. Whatever the case is, grabbing access to Apprentice Illusion Magician gets you a free body. Sending these 2 to generate you some advantage later on or immediately is just really strong. So, for example, Apprentice Illusion Magician and Fabled Lurie is full Fiendsmith combo on its own, which is really strong in that capacity. So that's it for the Fiendsmith cards. They are just generically fantastic, and they're no different in Dark Magician. They carry games by themselves, they have unbelievable recursion, and it's the best engine in the game right now. A player in the Dark Magician Discord by the name of Gohan, he's a huge advocate for Fiendsmith DM. And one of the main things that he spoke about that really gravitated me towards this deck is the amount of non-engine the Fiendsmith cards allow you to play. Because of how recursive the engine is, because of how strong the engine is off 1 card, the engine allows you to fill your deck up with a lot of cards that help you interrupt your opponent going second and even going first after you've established your board for additional layers of interaction, which is something that I've really taken for, something that we've never really had for Dark Magician, and it's something I'm going to be taking for granted after I'm finished playing with the Fiendsmith cards, because having this much access to non-engine is just really, really strong. So we'll start off the non-engine count with your 3 copies of Bestials. We play 1 Mag, 1 Bulldrake, and 1 Druisworm. You can play any combination of the 3 as long as you have Magnamut. You can play more if you wished you want to play more. We do play some extras in the side deck, which is very, very strong. Bestials are just fantastic right now. We do follow up the non-engine count with 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is probably one of my favorite hand traps right now. It's just so strong into the Ryziel matchup and a lot of matchups going forward. Effect Veiler paired with like an Infinite Impermanence is really, really strong. We do follow it up with 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is also one of the best generic hand traps right now in the game. There isn't much to discuss within these cards. They're just generically very strong right now. We do follow up with 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and we do play the 1 copy of Called by the Grave. So that's how much non-engine. We have pretty much 12 non-engine slots, 13 non-engine slots in this particular list, which do help you push into, which do help you stop your opponent from playing. In addition, having these cards in your hand after you've established a game state for yourself is just really strong. On top of, you know, you have a Dragoon Fiendsmith combo, and then you have, say, 2 or 3 hand traps in hand. It's really strong. So it ended up being the deciding factor when it came to choosing what variant of Dark Magician I wanted to play over the last few weeks. Moving on to the extra deck, this was probably the easiest part of deck building because this extra deck pretty much built itself. We start off by playing 1 copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is our primary boss monster. In addition to this, we play the 1 copy of the Dark Magicians. This card isn't mandatory, however, what this card does facilitate is making those awkward hands where you open up DM and DMG to be a little bit more playable in that sense. In addition, the Dark Magicians does generate you some advantage when paired with a card like Soul Servant or Fiendsmith Track, even Toy Box for that matter. So that's why we do end up playing the 1 copy of the Dark Magicians. This card can be substituted and is probably the most flexible card in the extra deck. However, I do prefer to play it. We then move on to the Fiendsmith cards. We play the 1 copy of Fiendsmith Desiree along with the 1 copy of Necroquip Princess. This is all part of the Fiendsmith combo, which all stems from, and what ties this deck together is the Moon of the Closed Heavens. What Moon of the Closed Heavens does is it makes Rod and Magician Souls, your standard 2-card Dark Magician combo, go into the Fiendsmith line. A quick showcase just to show how Magician's Rod and Magician Souls goes into the Fiendsmith line. This can be done with any 2 cards in the list. I know Loza has shown a video on it, as well as there are infinite amounts of resources on YouTube that you can go into that go into the Fiendsmith lines, as this is the most popular engine. But in this situation, we do start by activating your copy of Magician Souls. Magician Souls does send your copy of Dark Magician to the graveyard, special summoning your Magician Souls. You then normal summon your copy of Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod will activate its effect, grabbing you your Soul Servant. Now, in this case, at any point your opponent can interrupt you and you're perfectly fine, because you can still resolve your Fiendsmith lines down later on in the combo. In addition, if your opponent does interrupt you, this just means that your Fiendsmith cards are a little bit more free to resolve, if that makes sense. So, and if they don't, you position yourself in a fantastic spot. So then in this situation, you go Magician Souls, activate its effect to send your Soul Servant for cost to draw 1 card. Your Soul Servant then banishes itself to get you another card. So at this point, you have 5 cards. Obviously, if these are no more playable, if you open a toy box or things like that, you can go into a little bit more in here. We then link off your copy of Magician's Rod and Magician Souls to go into your copy of Moon of the Closed Heaven. You then link off Moon and go into your copy of Fiendsmith Requiem, which then you can activate your Fiendsmith Requiem's effect, sending itself to the graveyard to special summon your copy of Lacrima. You can then use Lacrima's effect to send your copy of Fiendsmith Engraver to the graveyard. You then activate Fiendsmith Engraver's effect, shuffling back your Moon of the Closed Heavens back to the extra deck to special summon itself. You then want to link off your Fiendsmith Engraver and your Lacrima, This is assuming that you have nothing left in your hand. I think this board is a little better. If you have more in your hand, you want to go for the Wave King Caesar line, simply because that gives you insurance from Nibiru. We then link summon into Fiendsmith sequence. We then activate Fiendsmith sequence's effect, shuffling back your Engraver, Lacrima, and Requiem back into the deck. And this will summon your Fiendsmith Desiree. We can then link off Fiendsmith Desiree and Fiendsmith sequence into your copy of Fiendsmith Agam Day. And Agam Day will essentially bring back your copy of Fiendsmith Desiree. You then equip both your Agam Day and your Fiendsmith sequencing to the Desiree to essentially get a negate on your opponent's turn. You have all this and an additional 5 cards in hand. And that's essentially how Rod and Souls gets you into the Fiendsmith line through a card like Moon of the Closed Heavens. Following up Moon of the Closed Heavens, we do play the 1 copy of Fiendsmith sequence. We do play the 1 Agam Day, Fiendsmith Agam Day. And then we play 2 copies of Fiendsmith Requiem. I was playing with this card at 1, and unfortunately you need to play 2. This card is just way too good, and it's probably the biggest target for a Bestial. Just having 2 gives you a little bit more grind game, which is really, really strong. In addition to having 2, it's just a little bit of more insurance when playing the Fiendsmith engine. I was playing this card at 1. I thought it would be okay, however, playing 2 is absolutely correct. We follow it up by playing the 1 copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is very good right now. In addition, we do play the 1 copy of IP Masquerena. These 2, you don't go into them as often as you'd like. SP you go into a lot more, but setting up IP and stuff like that is relatively decent, and it does come up where you have situations where you're left with a stray body on board. So in those cases, you do end up making an IP and then using that stray body to go into an SP as an additional form of interruption on your opponent's turn is very good. We do play 1 copy of Typhon. Typhon, I feel like right now is better than it's ever been, simply because a Typhon by itself can deal with a Fiendsmith Rizal board when it comes up to creating the DDD Wave King Caesar in addition to Detonator. So a Typhon by itself does clear that board, just giving you a little bit of extra insurance when going into a full power Rizal board. To round off the extra deck, we do play the Abyss Dweller, simply because the toy box package does generate us rank 4s, and Abyss Dweller is one of the best cards in the game. Even though it semi-contradicts, if we do go full Fiendsmith combo, Abyss Dweller does turn off that line. However, if we don't have access to that or our opponent interrupts it, Abyss Dweller is a fantastic option when you do resolve your toy box cards. We play the DDD Wave King Caesar as a standard end board piece if we don't end up going to Fiendsmith Desiree with the Fiendsmith combo. And to round off the extra deck, we do play the 1 copy of Chaos Angel, which is actually unbelievable right now in the current format. And that is our extra deck. And honestly, after playing with it a little bit more, there are maybe a few changes I'd like to make going into the future. However, for the time being, I think this is sufficient, and it could only get better from here. As you watch the test hand in the background, I do want to make one last disclaimer, and that is that I don't think I'm 100% happy with this particular list. Even though I think the list is solid, in addition, I've seen a decent amount of success with it at a locals level. However, there are some situations where I want to rethink, for example, a card like Toy Box, simply because Toy Box is a really difficult card to play into a Rizal Detonator. In addition, with the Bestials floating around in the format, it's very difficult to resolve at times. That being said, what Toy Box does facilitate for the deck is something that is just a little bit too good to pass up on, and it's something that I think is worth running the risk of a potentially low and detrimental floor because of how high the ceiling is. And that's just some decisions that need to be made down the line. However, for the time being, I do want to thank you for watching the video. In addition to this, please let me know what you would change in this list going forward and what you want to see from me in the near future. For now, I want to thank you for watching and have yourselves a great night. Bye.